Patch 9.15 is here, and the meta has changed a lot yet again. This episode, we're going to give our thoughts on the current patch, and we're also going to discuss how to adjust to new metas moving forward.
That's right. As Riot continues to tweak and evolve the game, it's going to be really important to have the skill of discovering quickly which comps and items are the best with each new patch.
This is Teamfight Tactical Report. New patch, new day, new lose streaks for both of us. I lost a lot of games.
Man, when this patch first came out, I am not embarrassed to say I was getting destroyed for a little while.
I must have had a fluke 3, and then it was like 6, 8, 8, 7, 5. I was like, what is happening?
That's what happened to me. I think my 4 games. First of all, we were working a lot, and I was a little out of town, so I didn't play 9.14 that much.
Yeah.
Came back on Wednesday, update the patch, play 4 games, and I went like 6, 7, 7, 8. I don't think I've gotten an 8 in like a month.
Yeah,
and I was like
rough.
Shell shocked. I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah.
I have a podcast about this. I have to know what I'm doing.
Why do you think I've been having such anxiety every week now? Every time a new patch comes out, I feel like I run through that same cycle instead of doing the smart thing, which is watching an episode or listening to an episode of Teamfight Tactical Report and finding out how you should address a new meta so you don't just get raffle stomped the moment you get in.
Yeah, luckily, I think we've figured out some things and turned the corner, and my last 5 matches have been like first, second. So
nice.
We are
that or your MMR
starting
is
to
just tanked.
Maybe.
One or the other.
I feel like it has been adjustment in play, and through talking with you and Andrew and some other people in the office who play a lot, we kind of were able to come to an understanding of what's going on, and that's where this podcast topic episode comes from, which is, how you figure out new metas and how you adjust to them. So we're going to talk about 9.15 here specifically, and then near the end, we're going to talk about, because this is going to help you now. Yep. But in the future, 9.16 is going to come out, 9.17 or whatever, and these skills will help you figure out quickly, and so you can pivot and change with the meta as it changes.
Yep, and the better we get at it, the better we're going to be able to teach you how to do it too. So the first big thing is that the late game has now returned, so you can go back to episode 1 and listen to that and listen to our advice there. Back again. Late game. So a lot of emphasis is now being placed on late game strategies due to specific things in this patch. Let's just go through them. The first one, player damage has been reduced. You used to get it a lot.
I want to say really quick.
Oh, yeah.
We've got a list here, and some of it is from the previous patch, too. I think it's been like a rolling stuff, and if we finally hit a tipping point where aggressive strategies have kind of been diminished, and that's why late games kind of come to the forefront. So go ahead again, sorry.
All right, so big number 1 is player damage has been reduced. So every time a minion would stay alive on the battlefield after you lost, it would shoot at you and it would do a certain amount of damage based on the level. That number has gone down by 1 for almost every single tier, so everyone's going to be living a little longer. You're not just going to get wiped out by something out of nowhere.
Yeah, even the spiders that Elise makes do less damage than they used to. I don't know why they even do damage. They shouldn't, but
I guess it's planned that way is what I've heard.
Right, but that means HP in general is higher for longer, so you're just not dying as quickly. Yeah.
Yep. Win loss streak bonuses buffed, so that also means that you want to be living for longer or losing for longer, but you're going to get more gold.
I think it means if you lose because the loss streak specifically was buffed, you have a better chance to come back from that position than you used to. Whereas winning streak, if you win 9 or 10 in a row, you're already doing good.
Doing pretty good, yeah.
And now you're still doing good.
This one wasn't huge, but the XP necessary to get to level 9 was lowered by a little bit, so that also is a big deal. Because a lot of times I would get to 8 and be like, okay, that's it. I'm not going to get to 9. There's no way.
I would say before this patch, I don't think maybe more than once or twice ever had I gotten to level 9.
Yeah.
And now playing maybe like 15 games into this patch, I'd say roughly half the time I'm getting to 9.
Or trying to, if you're in that late game.
Yeah, because I'm just able to save gold, and I've had over 80 gold multiple times now in the matches I'm doing well, which shows you that late game is doing well, but also you're there at that sudden point where I'm just going to put 60 XP in, put another unit out there.
Yeah.
Which never happened before.
Yeah, and we'll explain why more units are actually more important now. And finally, the shop rerolling. Before, when you leveled, let's say you were level 6, you went to level 7, and then you rerolled your shop, it would still have level 6 percentages and chances and not level 7. That's been changed. It seems like a bug fix almost.
Yeah, it used to only really take it into account when you change rounds. So now if you XP up to the next level, in the middle of a round, when you re-roll now, it'll work automatically. Yeah, again, it seems like that's how it should have worked.
How it should have worked, yeah.
So the cumulative effect of all of this is that the late game strategies now have the ability to stabilize against that early aggression. So when ranked first came out, remember how we were talking, okay, you can't do the things that we said because aggressive strategies are just so powerful. But now they've really
honed it back, taking less damage.
It feels more strategic too. It feels like you have more play. It was just like get my resources in there and kind of get lucky sometimes. And now it's like, oh, they're doing this. I'm going to do certain things. So the question here is, now that we know late game is back, aggressive strategies don't work as good, what does that mean? How do we take advantage of having that extra time?
Yep. Well, the first one is one that we addressed in the very first episode of the show, which is you get to hold on to more resources in general. So this starts off with, obviously, the easy one is gold. You can get to 50 gold in this format now, this meta. It's a lot more doable, and it's actually, I think, for the most part, there are certain times where you're going to want to ride that amount of gold because you're going to get the interest, and you're also going to be able to push levels harder.
Yeah, for sure. I think we are back to the days of holding your gold, less re-rolling early, getting to a certain point somewhere around Krugs where you're shooting to even try to get up to 50, you live off the interest for a little bit, and really out-resource your opponent, because those aggressive strategies, we talked about in previous episodes, how they have a tendency to peter out.
Yeah.
And now they are petering out because people are living longer, so they're getting more to that point where they're out of resources and you still have some, and you stabilize and you start to sort of turn the tide.
Yeah, and turning the tide is the pivot point, as we always talk about, is really, really important. So understanding where that also the timing of that shifts is a big part of metas. XP leveling is often now better than just re-rolling for units. Now, just sitting there and re-rolling is fun, and it's gambling, and it's also dumb sometimes, because sometimes you just need another unit. And that's because a lot of the big buffs to groups like Knights need more units on the battlefield, and the Knight buff is also another thing that's fighting against early aggression. It's a ton of armor. Same with the Noble buff too. So you want more units.
Brawlers are really good. Yeah. Both of those are Knights and Brawlers. You need 4 units for those. So if you want
really
to pair,
kick in,
so if you want to pair that with another comp, you're going to need at least 2. You know, if it's Rangers, Gunslinger, something that does damage, and so now you need 6 units for your basic comp, and often you find yourself needing to get to that 8th unit to have 4 and 4.
Yeah.
2-4. Origin buffs or whatever. Origins or classes. So. Yeah, XP very often more important than re-rolling. Just, you got to think to yourself, even if I get that, if I 2-star that 1 unit, is that going to be better actually than just
a whole
having another unit out? And I can guarantee get the other unit where I only might get to 2-star the, my Tristana or whatever, because I re-roll and it's a roll of the dice. I might not find it.
Yeah, and wasting that money when you could have just had that extra synergy and all that stuff, we found the synergies are now much more important there.
I mean, how bad is it when you re-roll, say, 5 or 6 times, don't find the unit you're looking for?
Yeah.
That's just gold gone. That's just 10, 12 gold just gone. Whereas if you put in XP, that's always going to be an advantage that you carry through the rest of the game.
But gambling is so fun. We said this last time, but building a pivot team on the bench seems to be more and more important as well now, especially because I think I've seen a lot of streamers ask this question, which is, where am I going to take this in my end comp? What does my end comp look like? And they're asking that question when they have 5, 6 units on the battlefield. So they're thinking constantly, how am I going to take this to the end comp? And they'll hold those types of units on the bench. I've seen people hold Brahms and Leonas because the Guardian buff just on their bench the entire game. And then in the last 5, 6 rounds, they finally come in and have a huge difference.
Yeah, for sure. Knowing which comps you can sort of pivot into and starting to build that. Keeping key champs and units, as they come across with that leaves me open to, if I see this now, I can go into this comp. And having a couple of those options available to you. And now you have the resources to do it. Before it was I can't afford to just be holding a $4 unit on my bench that's not in.
Yeah.
If it's not going to come in, then that money needs to be on the battlefield because I'm going to get run over.
Or in my XP. Right?
Yeah. This is a big one. The $5 units, the 5-drop units, so Karthus and Nivea,
Misfortune, yeah.
If you can 2-star one of those, they are very strong in this meta. And because the games are going longer and are taking more time, like I said, you're often getting to level 9 now. You have more chances to find more of those 5-drop units, and
you have the extra slots on your team too to put them in.
And a single 2-star Karthus will often just win you the game, or at least I can't imagine a team comp you could have where you had a 2-star Karthus and you don't get at least top 3.
Yeah. 2-star Karthus, 2-star Yasuo, I've just found just carries.
And Nivea, Misfortune, they all work. Yeah. Swain,
they all got buffed. I always say it this way: they're killing one unit off at one time is great. Awesome. If you can do that multiple units at a time, even better. So that's why Karthus and Kennen and early on Garen's so good. If you can stun multiple units, if you can do anything to multiple units, and every single one of these 5-star units all do that to multiple people.
Yeah. So that is a thing you're looking to leverage later in the game, is getting your resources to the point where you can hunt for those 5-star units. And I don't care what comp I'm in, very often, like the other day or yesterday, I'm playing a game and I think I'm like Knights Gunslingers and Anivia comes up. I'm like, grab it. And I reroll a couple times and I have a 2-star Anivia. I'm like, put it in. Doesn't synergize with anything else in my comp. Doesn't matter. It's by itself, it's so strong that it's worth it.
Yeah, the $5 units, they were buffed, as well as just, again, you're going to have a lot more time in the end game. I've seen games go to Elder and the Rift Herald many times now.
Another thing you can do now that you have more time and you're not getting run over so fast is you can now take your time with your items as well. So you can assemble the right items. You can afford to maybe wait and put that perfect item together that goes with that perfect champ. Again, in the old meta, we were like, whatever, I got to put this on something and it has to be on the battlefield because I will get run over. And now that you're not losing as much life and things have slowed down a little bit, you can be like, no, I'm going to wait. I'm going to build that Guardian Angel. I'm going to build, that perfect item that goes with the comp or the character, that my best champ, that's looks like it's ahead of my other champs. I can find the perfect item for that.
Yeah, wait for that. I've also seen people put a fully built item that they want to build because they know what comp they're going to try to go to on a unit they know they'll sell.
Right.
So they get the benefit of the full value of the item, and maybe it makes their poopy unit into a less poopy unit, but it makes it better enough to win them fights. And at the end, they're like, great, you've done your time. Thanks so much. Now you're going on that Draven.
Yeah, if I'm going like Void Comp or something, a lot of times I'm building a unit on Rek'Sai because I'm going to replace that with Cho'Gath later. And so I know I can get that item back and put it somewhere. So that's a great situation to be in because now I get the use of that item in the early game, which can help me win fights.
Yeah.
And I'm not trapping myself with that item on a bad unit later. I'm going to sell that unit, put it somewhere else where it's more effective. Yeah.
Yep. Very, very true.
So another change that we're noticing in this patch is that the individual fights in any given round are just lasting longer.
Everything's lasting longer. It seems.
Yeah, this is because they buffed defensive or sustained comps. So Guardians, Knights, Noble all got buffed. Brawlers got buffed last patch, or the individual brawler units got buffed.
Yeah.
And then they nerfed Demon, Assassin, Ninjas. So this has swung the scale a little bit, I think, in favor of more defensive comps. And so what tends to happen is that classic traditional fight of like the frontline units collide and then the
things in the back are just slinging.
The damage carries are just slinging. But those fights could take a while because Knights take a while to take down.
Yeah.
Guardians take a long time. If they've got full Noble, it's like, oh, this fight. I mean, I played a game yesterday where I was down to the last two, and I was against a Noble comp, and I lost because every battle was a draw. I had 6 Knights. He had 6 Nobles.
Feels so bad, dude.
And it just so happened when we got down to 2, he was at 30 HP and I was at 20. So every time we just drew, I would just... and I was like, I can't get past his Nobles.
I saw 2 Warmog Shyvanas just pew at each other for a draw every single time, too. Yeah. The slowing down of the game has happened across every single aspect of it at this point. So it's really interesting. The fights last longer. Also, I would say that because these are such desirable comps, everyone's trying to build a Brawler or a Void or a Knights or a Guardians comp. They're
Yordles also takes a long... Those fights just take forever because you just miss.
Yeah, and then at the same time, you can now put hyper damage carriers in the back because you don't have your Assassin jumping into one-shot them or your Ninjas.
Right, because Assassins got way worse. Yeah, so what does this mean that we know fights last longer? How do we use this knowledge to our advantage? And that's a really big, good point, which is if the fights are lasting longer and players have more leeway to sort of assemble the right items onto the right champs, we're seeing a lot more hyper carry builds, kind of like how it was before ranked.
Yeah, except in this case, they're not chunking them as fast. Before Draven would just 2-shot something.
Right.
They nerfed him. But now that they've sort of balanced it back and they've made the game, I think, to a desirable length, you can now sit that Draven in the back. I've seen the Niveas just get chunked up with every item on the planet.
Yep.
And then people wait for their 5-star units and they know that, okay, this Karthus is going to get his ult off at least once, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, we're just going to gum everything up, and this one unit is going to attrition them out by just doing more damage than everything else.
Oh, also, one last thing I didn't realize, because Guardian Angel is such a popular and powerful item, that means you get another life of a unit, which means a longer fight.
Yep.
So a lot more time here.
So some specific units that I think benefit from this this meta where we see frontline units colliding, damage hyper carries in the back are Blitzcrank, I think, got a ton better.
Yeah.
Because if you can nab their hyper carry at the start of the fight, it can just win you the fight.
Yep.
Because they're putting so many eggs in that one basket. And because Brawler in general is kind of a good comp. I think before, 2 patches ago, maybe Blitz was not that great. And now I'm playing Blitz all the time, it feels like.
Yeah, you see a lot more Blitzes too, Brawlers obviously. And the level 3 Blitz was just sometimes one-shot units.
Yeah, just grab their Draven, punch it once, 2 other units hit it, done.
Yeah,
and you're like, I won that fight now because that's 3 items and a unit gone.
I've been playing a lot more Lulu because I do like that. Anything that's also a sorcerer and adds to this as well. So Lulu can... Every time she ultis, just think about that number adding up towards the end of the game. It doesn't appear on the damage charts, but if there was a healing chart, Lulu would be skyrocketing to the top of that thing every single time.
And you think if the fights are going longer, that means units are surviving. And so Lulu's heal is worth more than what it says, right? Because if you heal a knight, you're not healing 300 because they're taking way less damage. So it's more like healing 500 hit points. And the fights are lasting longer, so Lulu gets to heal more often.
Again and again, yeah.
Yeah, that game I was talking about where it was just draw. I had knights and I had a Lulu, like a 3-star Lulu, who's just healing everything. So none of my stuff could die. None of their stuff could die. Lulu is very good in this meta.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, let's talk about a couple of team comps that we like so that you can take this information out there and build it and see if you can sort of beat the meta based on our recommendations. So team comp number 1, I talked to Brian today, and he said that, Andrew said that we know this works because Brian won with it. Brian being a self-proclaimed not as good gamer. So
Brian is lying. He's a gamer.
I know, exactly.
Through and through.
I know. Well, we always joke. It's like, haha, we're like, to the rest of the population, we're pretty up there. But in our small friend group, we are not up there. So team comp number 1 is Void, 2 Brawlers, and Sorks. So the Void synergy has had a big buff.
Yep.
Void units now do true damage.
Big deal.
That means that when Garen's swinging and a Void unit hits him, it does damage to him.
Yep.
Because it is true damage. It will go through and do the exact amount, no negation of that. So this also applies on Spellcast. Thus,
I did not know that until we talked about it after I was losing. I was like, no wonder Cho'Gath is so good now.
Cho'Gath just bops, and the entire team takes true damage, and that actually gets plussed if you're having the Sork part of this comp. So Cho'Gath is sort of the big hyper carry of this. And it's funny because he's not a hyper carry so much as in he is just doing the thing that Karthus is really good at. All the other
He's your late game pillar of that comp, though. He's the reason it works. He
just ults once or twice, and it brings everyone low enough that the rest of your team can pick them off without dying first.
But I think Kha'Zix is your early game carry because the critical damage is still
it's also true damage. Yeah,
so he just goes 600 dead.
Yeah, and if you're isolated, even more.
Yeah. So early in the game, you're 3 Void units that you're trying to get, and they're actually not super difficult.
Yeah, 2 of them are 1-stars.
Yeah, it's Kassadin, Kha'Zix, and Rek'Sai. So you can put this together pretty early, and like I said, Kha'Zix will just start one-shotting stuff once you have Void. It's very strong.
Yeah, they're easy to level up. You can also roll aggressively for Kassadin 2 and Kha'Zix 2 if you're feeling like you're into it. And Rek'Sai is just a $2 unit, so he's not hard to find either.
Yep.
And the other half of it, they sort of have an Assassin's build as you're going forward. I think Assassins are still viable, but you just need to play them earlier before they fall off very quickly. They just fall off faster. So Pyke and Rengar pair up with Kha'Zix to sort of make that Assassin's build, and then, you can always throw Blitzcrank in there to also help out.
Yeah, I sometimes, if I can't find the Assassin part, I will Brawler with this too, which is fine, because you're just trying to get something else to go with the Void to get you to, so you're just not, like, losing every fight.
Yeah. I've seen Knights work with this too. Actually, just Void plus anything, because again, it's 3 units at the $1 and $2 level, and you can get to a full 3-star thing immediately.
Yeah, I mean, I do think Assassins works particularly well because Kha'Zix is your pivot unit.
Yeah.
But Brawler also works because of Rek'Sai.
Yep.
Okay, so late game, what you're looking to do is you're looking to find Cho'Gath, and that's really the thing that'll... like, when you're in Void, you're like, Cho'Gath. That's all you care about. Yeah. Give me as many Cho'Gaths as I can find. And then you got Kassadin, and either Rek'Sai or Kha'Zix. Actually, any 2 of those 3, although I usually like to get rid of Rek'Sai if I can.
Yeah.
And put Cho in that place because it's sort of a more natural fit. And I might go Sorcerers, which this comp is, so you don't want to get rid of Kassadin.
Who is a Sorcerer.
Yeah. And then we see Lulu on this list of something we want because the fights are going long. Lulu is just so good now.
Yep. And then you can have a Morgana or an Aesol for the other Sorcerer, or if you're lucky, you find a Karthus.
Karthus is, I think you said this before we started recording. Was it before?
Yeah, most people agree it's the strongest unit in the game now, but right now in this patch, yeah.
Yeah. So always grab Karthus if you can, but especially in this comp.
I mean, usually you grab most 5 stars, but yeah, Karthus is definitely one you pay highly attention to.
This is a good comp. You know, assassins carry you through the early game, and you're not going to win every fight, but you're in it, and you're healthy, and you can... This way you can econ.
You can econ, yeah. It's about staying healthy. If you're winning one, losing one, but you're not losing by a ton, then you're doing better. Yeah. It's only when you lose by like 6-7 units that you need to make sure that you're confident.
You're like, oh, crap.
Yeah, things hurt.
All right, comp number 2 is the Ranger Static Shiv combo. So Rangers, they got a buff, kind of. They retooled Rangers in this patch where most of the Rangers, they lower their damage slightly and then up their attack speed.
Yeah.
So Static Shiv procs every 3 attacks. So this actually works really well with the Rangers now because they're just attacking faster. So like Vayne early on just attacks super fast. And also the Ranger buff obviously ups their attack speed.
Yeah, Vayne and Varus are your sort of 2 Rangers to get you going, your starter package. And I've seen a lot of people run run Noble around Vayne or run Knights in this comp. So Darius and the Garens as well.
The Bash Brothers.
The Bash Bros.
Darius and Garen are the Bash
Brothers.
They
are actually. They're easy to get in the first levels as well.
Mordekaiser will fill in too if you can't find one of them.
Yeah, he's the long lost brother that they don't talk about.
He's not one of the brothers. Yeah, he's
a phantom. He's a phantom is what he is.
But I mean, in a pinch, you can use Mordekaiser so you can get the Knight comp going. 2 Knights, 2 Rangers is pretty good.
Yeah, and the Knights block so much damage. It's crazy.
Yeah. And they also make the Rangers more tanky because that Knight buff applies to all your units. Yeah, and then this is one of the comps where you're looking for Braum early and looking for Leona a little later to get that Guardian buff.
Yeah.
And this is one where often you'll be holding the Braum off on the side, hoping to find the Leona, and then so you can slot in
Jam them both in at the same time, yeah. And then once you're able to get, a lot of people say never go 4 Rangers, but if you do high roll into them, they're really good. Kindred is very powerful. Ashe is as well, especially because you do have Braum in there, so you got Glacial as well now.
And you still have some Knight comp left, so you can get Sejuani in there, and now you've got some Glacial because you got Ashe with the Rangers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can really come together.
You definitely...
I like how this late game, Andrew put down Anivia/Karthus. Karthus doesn't have any synergy, but he's just so good
enough. Yeah, he's just literally good enough, especially because Static Shiv is such an important part of this comp. You're attacking a bunch, it's proccing a bunch, and it's doing damage to everyone. So again, Karthus just adds to that. But the important thing is you're proccing it like 10, 20, however many times you can in the game.
Yeah, I mean, if you could stack 3 Static Shivs on a Vayne early, that'll just get you most of the game. Yeah, for sure. Okay, you want to talk about the last comp?
Yeah, third team comp is one that we've seen before, but the wild part of it wasn't there. It's wild Draven, just Draven. You want to, basically the theory is you're getting 4 wild to buff up Draven's attack speed, and you're just going to go nuts. And the wild pieces are actually really easy to find early on. You got Warwick, Rengar, who's very, very good now.
Rengar got buffed big time.
Yeah, and then you also have Nidalee as well. And Gnar is definitely the hardest 4th wild to find, but you can definitely get 2 wild going early on. And those units as well, Warwick will go into Brawlers with the Blitzcranks and stuff. And so you can have a lot of different ways to at least sustain in the early game.
And wild got buffed too, so it's a little bit more attack speed. And if you think about the fact that fights go longer, the wild buff gets better because the wild buff stacks every time they successfully attack. Yeah. So if fights are really quick, you don't have enough time for that to
even
pay
get
off.
To the full 5, yeah.
Yeah, but if fights are going long, then all of a sudden, by the end of the fight, your units are so much stronger than they were at the start. And that really, you do want to get 4 wild eventually, because then that buffs the entire team, not just your wild units. And that's when Draven becomes just a house.
Yeah, and this comp's a little tougher because you're also relying on like a late game Yasuo to give you that Blade Master buff for your Draven. But once you get the full pieces going, you have CC with Gnar, you got a bunch of damage with Draven and Yasuo, and then you can just add on the Karthus.
I find that Rengar is... I don't know Karthus.
Why not?
I find that Rengar is really carrying me in this comp. Through the middle part of the game.
Yeah.
And often Rengar will be your best unit. And then once you get the Draven going, you're like, oh God, I hope a Swain comes. Or...
Well, Rengar does what we want every unit to do, which is like, wait, who's going to die next? I'm going to go there.
Yeah, I'll kill that thing.
Yeah. Okay. We're like, Draven, why can't you have that built into your AI, please?
So, yeah, that's a strong comp. You also need to grab a cat at some point. Don't forget to do that.
Right, so you can
get that Imperial buff.
Imperial buff, yeah. A couple notable mentions here. Gunslinger comps, they're still strong. I've seen a lot of people playing them. I think they're very item dependent, and they're also looking for things like static shifts sometimes too. So you got to be careful with those.
They're highly contested, but I think if you can get Gunslingers, it is still good.
Yeah, they also buffed Pirates, so you're going to see those Gunslinger comps running more often as well.
And then here's something Andrew put, which we already talked about.
Andrew's
He's in love with Rengar.
Or favorite single unit.
Yeah, Rengar, he says, is extremely strong with Guardian Angel, Attack Speed Item, and Bloodthirster.
Yeah, the Bloodthirster seems really good on him. He's jumping in the backline, doing a lot of crit damage, and then just jumping to someone else, doing the same, usually ending their lives and going to another
jumping to the next one, yeah. Well, speaking of items, let's talk about some items for this patch that are particularly good. We've already touched on a few. Static Shiv, obviously.
Yeah, very, very good.
One of the best items right now. Guardian Angel.
Maybe my favorite item in the entire, because if a Kenan's ulting and dies, he keeps ulting and the Guardian Angel revives him.
That's the thing, is they keep their mana.
Yeah.
Was that true before?
I don't know if it was true before or if it didn't heal enough, but now the Guardian Angel, they come back, they keep their mana, and they're just ready to go. Not to mention all the units that are on them aggro to something else, so they come up and they're fine.
So it used to only heal 500, now it heals 1,000, which is a huge deal because they're almost full health when they come up. I don't believe, I could be wrong, that they kept their mana before, but now they do. So often they will pop up and immediately ult.
Yeah.
Because they died, which means they got hit a bunch, which means they got a bunch of mana. And
so
then
they pop up, throw one auto, get smacked once, and they're at auto, and they're at ulti range, yeah.
Yeah, so they pop up and ult, but also what you said is really amazing, which is if you put it on even your hyper carry, which you wouldn't think you want a Guardian Angel there, the thing is, if they happen to kill it, it dies and they go, oh, what else can I kill? And they look around and they find somebody else and they run over there and then the hyper carry pops back up and just starts
going again.
And it's like they won't come back to it until last now almost. Yeah. So Guardian Angel, it's one of the best items for sure right now.
Yep. Rapid Fire Cannon still very good. It's just good in many of these comps. I think every single one of the comps we said you could put a RFC in there and be very fine with it.
And then this item got nerfed and is still really good, I think.
Yes, because it says the words true on it.
So Ionic Spark, it used to do 200 damage anytime one of their units casts a spell. Now it does 150.
Yeah.
But it's still just like this. If you get an Ionic Spark early, it will carry you through like the first 3 rounds because it's just so much damage over the course of a fight because fights are going longer.
Yeah, Static Shift does the same thing. But yeah, Ionic Spark, Static Shift, same idea basically. If you can just punish people for doing stuff over time, it's going to pay off. Lucians just cower in fear of Ionic Sparks.
All right, so that's going to do it for the comps we're going to talk about. I think there are a lot of viable comps right now, though, even more than we talked about. And that's really exciting for the game because there's a lot of strategy now. There's a lot of give and take.
Yeah, the game, everyone's saying they're liking the meta a lot more. I am too. It's a lot more balanced. You're not just losing to some bad feel bads. I think there's a lot more play as well, especially in the late game. I've seen people
it's harder
100 180s, and like rounds, the last rounds, and make it work. So that's really cool to see too.
It's really a lot harder to just force something and win. And you used to be able to just force ninjas, force assassins, and win.
Yep.
It's hard to do that now,
which is good.
All right, let's move. We're going to just do a subtopic here really quickly. We're going to talk about what this has taught us about adjusting to new patches and metas. Like, how can we now be better at this the next patch that comes out and the next patch after that? Better at adjusting quickly.
Yeah. So when I first started playing, I just got tilted. I just got angry. I was like, why am I losing so much? But I wasn't paying attention to key facts that I now realize, which is I wasn't dying as fast in the early game, but I was at some point when I was around 70, 80 life, I would just get 3 battles in a row, go from 70 to 20.
Right.
Like, what happened? And I wasn't paying close enough attention to the pace of the game, what other people were building, and how it felt differently. And asking yourself those questions, that would have told me, oh, maybe I should have been econing more. Maybe I should know how to pivot better so I have the ability to when I notice my comp falls off. These things I didn't ask myself, I was punished.
Yeah, I think that's a really good thing in all of gaming, which is like when you lose or when you're losing, especially if you were doing better before, something changed and now the X is happening to you, is to not, is to take a step back, take a deep breath and go like, okay, what's happening that's different than what was before? Like I was having success before and now I'm not. And what is different? Like, am I losing rounds early? Am I losing? Am I running out of gas? Noticing things like, oh, each round is just kind of lasting longer. The fights seem to last longer. There's not so much aggro. It's beyond just like what units are good, right?
Yeah, although that can be valuable too. I mean, just knowing how good Karthus is, now you know that if you had the choice between one or the other, you're going to take the Karthus. Just small things like that. We also recommend, like I said last episode, stay in the game, watch how other people are playing it out, watch what items they put on what. A lot of times your games could be lost for a number of reasons, or it could be for one big reason, or it could be for 20 reasons over a whole course of a game. So if you're able to lessen your mistakes, put the right items on people more often, save, do all that stuff, you're gonna win more too.
Yeah, one thing I did was I was losing those early matches, and I stayed in the game, and I wouldn't watch the entire thing, but I'd watch it for a few more rounds so that I could really see like, oh, definitely these 3 players are gonna be like
I see.
near the top, and then I would just start writing down the comps.
Yeah.
And then I did that for like I lost 3 or 4 games pretty badly, and I could look and be like, well, these comps are, very often showing up in my little list here. And so I'm going to try and just do that.
Yeah, see how that works.
At least I can go towards Knights, Brawlers, Void.
Right.
Because I know that's worked for somebody else, and it's likely that it'll work for me if I can get it.
Yeah. Finally, tons of people are streaming this. Tons of people are making content for it like we are. Reach out on Twitter at TF Tactical, or just, watch some streamers.
Yeah, consume some content. I think just talking to other TFT players too. Like, I think I was really floundering, and I walked into the room with you guys, and I was like, how do I win? Like, I'm losing. And we just sat and talked for a little while, and we were like, games are longer. Okay, what does that mean? And having other people to bounce stuff off of really helped a lot, because after that conversation, I literally went back, played another game, and all of a sudden I was like, I got second. And
nice.
It just helped to codify what I needed to do.
Yeah, and sometimes if you have an idea about what you should do, just jump into a normal game. Don't play ranked, and test it out and see what happens. It's going to be a different atmosphere, but you're going to still learn a lot from that same pattern of behavior.
Yeah, it can take pressure off you too.
Yeah, the meta changes affects the whole meta, but you're still going to be queuing up with people around your level as well when you're doing normal games.
And, if you don't have a room to walk into with other TFT players, you can, like Jimmy said, just reach out to us on Twitter. He's at JF Wong. I'm at Josh Lee Kwai. Or you can reach out to the show. We both check that Twitter account. It's at TF Tactical.
That's right.
Twitter's a great place to engage with us. And also, if you're winning matches and doing well, you can post the comps.
Yeah, send them to us.
Because I like to look at those a lot and be like, oh, this is winning a lot. I'm going to try it.
Yeah. Thanks so much for saying those, by the way. We love seeing everyone's victories in our inboxes.
All right. That's going to do it for today's episode.
Our editors for the show are Andrew Manligas and probably me, Jimmy Wong. So make sure you also check out Game Nights and the Command Zone podcast that Josh and I host. It is everything you would want in a Magic the Gathering show. It's called Game Nights. Game Nights, Nights with a K.
Yeah. If you like gaming, you will like Game Nights. So
you should.
Even if you don't play Magic, check it out.
Yeah, no, guaranteed. Guaranteed. I'll throw it out there. I'll put my name on the line.
If you're enjoying this podcast, then hopefully you have some, you like us a little bit.
Yeah, just enough.
Just enough to try out Game Nights, Nights with a K. All right, we'll stop selling it.
All right.
Thanks for watching.
Good luck out there.
All right.